See July 2 Indian Express news articles related to UPSC. Government hikes export tax on petrol diesel to ease home situation. An aim to address the issue of fuel shortage in the country, government Friday imposed special additional excise duty on export of petrol and diesel. The move will not just fetch just most revenue to the exchequer, but also discourage companies from exporting petrols and diesel, thereby helps ease the fuel situation in the domestic market. Private oil marketing companies were exporting petrol and diesel to foreign countries like Australia for better realization. And export are becoming highly remunerative. It has been seen that such certain refiners are drying out their pumps in the domestic market. Oil companies are exporting petrol and diesel because it was more remunerative. The government stepped in after pumps began running dry and fuel shortage concerns sure. With the export cess, it hopes the situation will ease. Next article that we are moving into is about PM speaks to Putin, reiterates call for Ukraine diplomacy. Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin discussed the situation in Ukraine in the telephone conversation. Their first 4 such interactions since the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24. During the conversation, Modi reiterated New Delhi's position calling for dialogue and diplomacy, briefed Modi on dangerous and provocative nature of the line of the Kiev region and its western patron aimed at escalating the crisis and disrupting efforts to resolve it politically and diplomatically. India has tried to maintain a diplomatic balance between the West and Russia. Ukraine conflict unfolded over the last 4 months. New Delhi has condemned the reported killings of Russian troops of civilians in Ukraine's Bucha. At the same time, it has not joined the sanctions imposed on Russia by the West and has not criticized Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. Russia has emerged as a major oil supplier to India. While India has not criticized Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, it has condemned the killing in Bucha, the Ukrainian city where the several civilians were reported to have been killed by Russian troops, and has called for an international investigation into it. However, India has always tried to maintain a diplomatic balance between the US-led West and Russia as a conflict unfolded over the last 4 months. Next topic that we are moving into is all about ministry moves to change environment protection law, fine, no imprisonment. This article talks about decriminalize the existing provision of Environmental Protection Act 1986. Amendment also proposed the creation of an Environment Provident Fund in which the amount of penalty will be remitted. Enacted under Article 253 of the Constitution, the Environmental Protection Act came into force in November 1986. The Act establishes the framework for studying, planning and implementing the long-term requirements of environmental safety and laying down a system of speedy and adequate response to the situation threatening the environment. In case of any non-compliance or contravention of the current provisions of the Environmental Protection Act or of the rules under this Act, the violator can be punished with the imprisonment up to 5 years or with the fine of 1 lakh or with both. In case of continuation of such violation, additional fine of up to 5,000 rupees for every day during which such failure or contravention continues after the conviction for the first such contravention can be levied. Next article that we are moving into is all about passing stress test. A new RBI report says asset quality, capital position of banking system continue to improve. That's something to build on. According to RBI's latest financial stability report, gross national performing loans of the banking system has declined from 7.4% in March 2021 to 6-year low of 5.9% in March 2022. While the public sector bank continued to be more stressed than private bank, the central bank's stress test indicates that banks are well capitalized and are capable of absorbing the macroeconomic shocks even in the absence of any further capital infusion. Asset quality across all major sectors, the bad loans have declined even in the sectors such as engineering goods, gems, jewelries and construction sector, which have been significantly elevated in the past. Lower than the levels witnessed in September 2020. However, continuous rise in the SMA 0, SMA 1 categories. The loan where the principal or interest payment is overdue for up to 30 days are categorized as SMA 0, while where they are due between 31 to 60 days, or SMA1 requires close monitoring. Central bank has also conducted a stress test to gauge the strength of banks' balance sheets against the macroeconomic shocks. Under a baseline scenario, it estimates that banks' bad loans may fall further to 5.3% by March 2023. If the macroeconomic environment worsens, bad loan may rise to 6.2% in the medium stress scenario, deteriorating to 8.3% in the severe stress scenario. Next article is all about renewable revolution. This article talks about, as a fallout of Russia's invasion of Ukraine ripples across the globe, the response of some nation to the growing energy crisis has been doubled down on fossil fuels, pouring millions more dollars into coal, oil, gas that are deepening the climate emergency. Meanwhile, all climate indicators continue to break the records and forecasting a future of ferocious storms, floods, drought, wildfires, unlivable temperatures in the vast swaths of the planet. The fossil fuels are not the answer, nor will they ever be. We can see the damage we are doing to the planet and our society. Fossil fuels are the cause of climate crisis. Renewable energy can limit the climate disruptions and boost the energy security. Renewable are the peace plan for 21st century. The battle for a rapid and just energy transition is not being fought on a level field. Investors are still backing fossil fuels, and governments still hand out billions in subsidies for coal, oil and gas, about $1 million every minute. There is a word for favoring short-term relief over long-term well-being addiction. We are addicted to fossil fuel. For the health of our society and planet, we need to quit. The only true path to energy security, stable power prices, prosperity and a livable planet lies in the abandoning polluting fossil fuels and accelerating the renewable based energy transition. To that end, I have called a G20 government to dismantle coal infrastructure with a full phase out of 2030 for OECD countries and 2040 for all others. I have urged the financial actors to abandon the fossil fuel finance and invest in renewable energy, and I have proposed a 5-point plan to boost the renewable energy. First, we must make renewable energy technology a global public good, including removing intellectual property barriers to the technology transfer. Second, we must improve the global access to supply chains for renewable energy technologies, components and raw materials. In 2020, the world installed 5 gigawatt of battery storage. We need 600 gigawatt of storage capacity by 2030. Shipping bottlenecks and supply chain constraints, as well as higher cost for lithium and other battery metals. Third, we must cut the red tape that holds up solar and wind projects. We need fast-track approvals and more efforts to modernize the electricity grids. Fourth, the world must shift energy subsidies from fossil fuels to protect the vulnerable peoples from energy shocks and invest in a just transition to a sustainable future. We need more urgency from all global leaders. We are already perilous close to hitting the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. The science tells us this maximum level of warming to avoid the worst climate impacts. We must reduce the emission by 45% by 2030, reach net zero emission by mid-century. Answer lies in the renewable for climate action, energy security, providing clean electricity to hundreds of millions of people who currently lacking it. The cost of solar energy and batteries have plummeted 85% over the past decade. The cost of wind power fell by 55%, and the investment in the renewable creates 3 times more jobs than fossil fuels. Of course, the renewables are not only the answer to climate crisis. Nature-based solutions such as reversing deforestation and land degradation are essential. So too are efforts to promote the energy efficiency. But a rapid renewable energy transition must be our ambition. And the energy prices will be lower and more predictable, with the positive knock-on effects of our food and energy security. Next article that we are moving into is all about how the bank held its own. Let us see this, continue this article in the next video. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask in the comment section. If you like the video, please do share, like, comment and subscribe. Thank you. Have a nice day.